Welcome to the Housing Digital Micro Conference on the Building Safety Act, the future of compliance in housing. With the Building Safety Act now fully operational, it is important to understand just what this new legislation will mean for housing. In this session this morning, we will highlight the challenges that lie ahead for providers and how they can utilize data and IoT technology to prepare for the changes. Housing providers are already seeing the benefits of remote monitoring technology, such as deterring issues before they arise. This session will explore how such innovation will prove pivotal as the Building Safety Act comes into force, ushering in a new era of housing compliance. I'm very excited today to hear from four keynote speakers. I'm delighted to introduce our next keynote speaker, who's a director at BTP Architects. Always interesting to see an architect's perspective. I'm delighted to welcome Andy Kwok Ho Wan, who's director of BTP Architects. Andy, you are free to begin your presentation and share your screen.
So thank you for inviting me to present to everyone. So I've got a few slides. I might talk a bit quick, so just bear with me. So just a brief introduction. I am Andy Wan, as mentioned. I've got over 6 years experience now working on all different types of housing, from new build, retrofit projects, HRBs, conservation projects, and supported living projects. And I've been a project asset for a number of high-rise remediation projects throughout the country, but mainly focused on the northwest area. And I also manage a lot of extra care projects as well across the country as well. So I have quite a good mix of projects that I've been involved with. I'm also specialist in sustainability aspects of the projects, and also accredited passive house designer as well. So if I just briefly touch you where the building safety, I'm sure everyone knows, but where the Building Safety Act came from, it's just all to do with the Grenfell fire that sadly happened in June 2017. And then since then, from the Dame Judith Hackett report, we got given the Building Safety Act that came into effect. And Building Safety Regulator came into effect October 2023. So from that, we need to analyze what happened really with Grenfell, and to be honest, a lot of stock now from the same era will happen again. For instance, this is a project in Manchester for one of the high-rise tower blocks, and unfortunately had a similar situation where it had a fire and it spread across a couple of floors. We were tasked to inspect it, and upon opening inspections, we're quite shocked to see what we found, really. So when we moved the cladding, we found out that loads of insulation, fire barriers, cavity closure stuff that was just held on with masking tape, as you can see in the middle photo. Some parts of the SFS system was using the wrong kind of cavity stoppers as well, on the right-hand image. So, it's things like that's like, how on earth did those get signed off in the first place? So, so this brings me to, we still don't know how our bill is constructed, essentially. So there's still got loads of stock that could be in a similar situation. So it's important for everyone to try and investigate all the existing stock that they have now. In this example as well, in the bottom left-hand corner, the pipes are penetrating through a part of the wall, but it's not sealed properly. And then it's just again, with all these images, we just keep finding on all our projects, the initial investigation, open up works, is that it's just things like, we just don't know how things got signed off. So again, that goes back to just making sure that you inspect your current stock now, because you just never know what happens, what you will find when you open it. And from this, it sort of brings you to the new duty holders of the new building regulations, which is the principal designer BSA role and the principal contractor, which stays the same, but principal designer, you just have to make sure you don't get confused with the CDM principal designer role and the new one, which is the BSA principal designer role. So I like to see it as the CDM side of things. It focuses on health and safety, but it's basically make sure the workers go home at the end of the day, essentially, so no accidents occur on site to prevent it. Whereas the BSA, the new role for it, is to make sure that the work is designed to compliance, so they meet the building regs, and it's important that it does. So those are the two comparisons really. So again, here's another snapshot really of what we could do. So the principal designer, BSA, is to ensure the design is in accordance with regs, and the principal contractor ensure that it's built within accordance with regs. So that's ultimately what we need to understand from the client appointment. So BSA includes all aspects of the building. So it's not just a HRB, it includes non-HRB buildings. So I think someone mentioned before that the HRBs are 80 meters or 7 stories above with 2 residential units. Non-HRBs is everything outside it. But we just have to note that the existing fire ladders that's existing in the fire engines that we have now, they only go up to around 11 meters. So that leaves a grey area of what happens in the height between 11 to 18 meters. So, and me and other colleagues in the office always discuss it like we just have, and we always advise the client, you just have to do the right thing and advise them like, although technically this doesn't fall under HRB in that zone, we'll still need to consider, aspects and inspecting the building to make sure it's compliant and for the safety for the tenants, because you never know who will need additional care or is vulnerable for it. So we'll always ask the client just to do the right thing and just check as well pretty much all your stock, because it's not just the over 18s, HRBs. And a summary of what the client duties are. They need to ensure that the design work is carried out so that the building work is compliant with building regulations. Ensure that building work is carried out in accordance with the building regulations, ensuring enabling designers and contractors to cooperate to ensure compliance with building regulations. So that's all about the teamwork. You have to make sure the client appoints the right team, because without good teamwork, the project could fall apart. Similar case with all our projects, we always ensure that we engage with everyone since day one, and they would talk through any issues from day one, because then that way we can slowly iron out any issues and design anything that may be required for it. And then also they need to ensure that arrangements are maintained and reviewed throughout the project. So talk about constant reports, and we carry out monthly or even fortnightly design team meetings just to keep on check with all the where the program's going and if the project's still going ahead or is there any issues, things like that. So what does the client need to do? So it's important that the client will need to appoint a competent team. Now, there is different types of competencies. For architects, we have the RIBA Principal Designer Register. This is to showcase that we're competent to carry out the new BSA role as well as CDM role as well, because to get on it, you have to go through a rigorous testing resume for it. So that's one way architects can prove their competency. And if there's an architect that isn't on the register, should be just wary about it and just make sure that they are the right ones with other means internally. But what we like to do is also have this competency form where each person from the design team fills it out. So that's one way of keeping a record of everyone that's involved, of the key team members, and then just filling out what their specialists are, qualifications they have, and experience. So that's a good way that clients can check for competency. But you will need to understand that there's also competency criteria for other people who not architects but contractors per se. These two have understanding of the PAS 8673 and then also the BSI standards. I believe now they're having a similar there's similar tests you can do now for contractors and EAs alike, where they have a register now where they do a similar test to the architects ones to be on it. So I don't know if that's happened yet, but I know they're talking about it with CPD that was joined in not long ago. So with this, it's important that because it is complicated, not gonna lie, for people who doesn't understand the progress already. So we have devised like a table, really, a step-by-step thing of what each stage would, what stage the client needs to understand and also go through. So in this table we devised, it's following, so this is all architects based, but the RBA register, the RBA stages of stages 1 all the way to 7, we're breaking down each segment to assist the client on, okay, with stage 1, you would need to appoint a principal designer in writing, and then moving on to stage 2 and 3, you need to develop X, Y, Z, and then it basically guides the client through everything. And we found that this was actually quite helpful with a number of our clients that we spoke about, because it gives them a clear indication of, oh, okay, so for high risk buildings, we need to do this, but if it's not, it's this way. So yeah, we're trying to help the clients, potential clients, just to understand the process as a whole first, and then just guide them through it, because ultimately they need to be clear of what the progress involves, because ultimately the client's responsible for the building. So that's why it's important that they need to understand the whole process of it and what it involves. So one of the things that we do as well as a principal designer, not just us, but we expect other principal designers, is to make sure that there is a change control register. So it involves material tracking and any site inspections. Now, this is something that we built up upon the different projects we have. So at first, it started a simple Excel sheet, but then it slowly expanded out, and then we share it across the whole design team. But we need to log down, it's important, for all the material changes that we have for the projects. This includes HRB and non-HRB as well, and then carry out fortnightly or weekly or monthly site inspections as what is agreed with the program. But this is really important because this material tracker tracks any changes that the building has new. So if, for instance, if any fireboarding changes or screw fixings, it goes down to that level. And some may say it might be too onerous and over the top, but at the moment we haven't had any complaints on the BSA, so I think we're doing something right with that. And then again, with the site inspections, we go around site, we take photos and log everything, and we issue it back to the design team. And within the photos, we highlight what we're seeing and what can be seen then, because ultimately they need to be built to the right drawings. Then this goes on to the checks and balances. So this is projects that the contractor was happy with, but when we, as you can see in photos, it's just, yeah, this is sort of thing that you could expect to see. So it's important that we don't have this anymore. And this is why it's important for the principal designer to go to site and actually inspect each element and raise these concerns straight away. And one of the ways a contractor can do it, we always say that it's best to get a third party or a separate outside of the contractor, just because it's like the contractor marking their own homework. Like, I'm not saying all contractors are bad, but you do get some that will slip through the net, and a contractor never admit to any problems that they've done. So, for instance, for this example here, that if we raised all this, I was like, why isn't this raised early on? So yeah, so that's one thing just to be wary of as well when hiring a principal designer. I'm just going to briefly talk to the gateways because that was mentioned before, but gateway 1 is mainly to do with planning, and you need the fire and structure report all in place. We actually were one of the first people to do it back in I think 2017 something, before the whole HRB registration. So when the gateways set it out, and then gateway 2, this is mainly for the HRBs now. What this is only for the HRBs is it's a hard start measure where it's a submission to the building safety regulator, and imagine like a building control where you can't start any work until it's been signed off. And then Gateway 3 is completion, so that's a golden thread of information and the handover, and that's when all the reports are also handed over to the client. Now, there is software that people can use called Block Pro that helps manage all that. Essentially, it's like a program with a checklist and with the mandatory recording programs as well. Similarly, they can provide like a QR code for residents to log any complaints and stuff for the client. So that's the client side of things. Some examples of the opening up procedures which a print designer should be doing. Just looking at again the building that I showed previously, taking off all the cladding and then inspecting all the fire bats. There's timber left on the balconies. Again, Kingsway House. This is in Warrington, and it's not just the cladding stuff, but this one was the internals as well. So we're doing the fire doors as well. So we have a checklist that we made and issued out to the client as a reminder of all these bases covered with the fire doors, because again, that's a really important thing to make sure that's done right. And then this is Advent in Manchester, where we were there at the beginning, and then the remediation progress is happening. So that's what we expect for the principal designer role and the new regime to be picking up on, is all the issues that's existing now with the current building, and then what we're going to do about it, what we're going to tell them. So this is now ongoing. And a quick summary. So what is Lewis? So the first point is that the existing buildings, we don't know what they're like. So yeah, we look at a lot of existing stock now. This is being investigated, and I will always tell like any RPs or clients to just do a thorough investigation of all the existing housing stock, because you never know what building's been signed off that it should never have been. Second point of all is competency check. You need to make sure like the people you get in on board is the right ones. And then it's important the PD aspect is go onto site and carry out the inspections, because I know some people are doing a desktop-based one, but should really do on site, because that's anything And then communication with the team, and then the last thing is make sure you do the right thing.
Clearly passionate about what you do, Andy. That's nice. That's nice to see.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so we have got time for at least one question for Andy before we move on. Can I ask, have we got any questions for Andy, please?
Alan Coates, Property Compliance Manager at Cheltenham Borough Council. Just two very quick questions. One is, do you need two different PDs to be able to, or can one PD facilitate both roles?
Right. So again, it's a whole new different role. So I know some larger organisations may be able to accomplish both, but I always say it's separate. You really need to be specialised, because sometimes I know some organisations that only specialise in CDM. Like, how would they know if things are built correctly if they don't have the design experience? So how do you know if that's the right timber or foundation stuff like that? So it's really an on-site, hands-on process that needs specialism in it. Well involved in it.
Brilliant. And when do you predict that potentially FRA EWs will be needed for buildings, say below the 11 meters? When are we likely to have to look at that as well as 11 plus?
To be honest, I won't answer that, but we're always advised that for us, fire is really important. So that's why we have an in-house fire consultant as well, fire engineer, to do it, because we know the importance of it. So I would always recommend to just get one regardless of the project. It goes back to the grey area of, we don't have to do it because it's not 80 minutes, but really the right thing to do is just get one done. Because ultimately
all buildings.
Exactly.
So would that be from all buildings 1 story and above, I guess?
Yeah. So what we've done we've also done it in some elderly care bungalows and stuff. We've got one carried out for that kind of thing. Exactly. So it's important to have it done.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you for your question, Alan, and thank you for your presentation, Andy. Just to summarise today's microconference, then we first heard from Nick Davis, who's the commercial director at Switchy. Nick introduced Switchy's platform and how they work with housing associations to provide warm, safe, and energy-efficient homes. The technology that Switchy developed can be seen by the resident via a 4G connection and with the data gathered from their IoT sensors. Nick gave us a really cool case study of how the data can show patterns, which can not only improve the homes, but by adding new ventilation systems, for example, to prevent mold, obviously helping housing associations to create the strategies moving forward. We then heard from Vicky Houghton. Vicky was should say, the head of asset compliance at Taurus. Vicky delved into the strategy and the actions that Taurus have taken to respond to the Building Safety Act. In all parts of the business, Taurus have looked at how they can improve the process and the communication internally, as well as with residents externally, taking a full holistic approach to how to respond to building safety. Using tech, but also face-to-face interactions and various platforms to gather more data. Taurus are creating and improving continuously in building safety. Our third keynote was our architectural contribution from Andy Wan. Andy was the director of BTP Architects and looking at the on-site building aspects of the Building Safety Act and compliance from an architect's perspective. His presentation answered the question of what housing associations should be looking at when analysing their housing stock and identifying any non-compliance issues. The main takeaways we found from Andy's presentation was that we don't know what we're working with always. The correct team needs to be in place with the right qualifications. Good communication is key, and processes are in place, and to always keep in mind the phrase "do the right thing." And then our fourth and final keynote presentation was, of course, from Heidi Flack. Heidi is the Director of Compliance and Building Safety at Anchor Housing Group. Heidi introduced the policy within Anchor's building safety and how they have implemented this, how it is continuously improving to get the right balance of face-to-face engagement, tech, platforms, IoT, and on-site data to use it in the right way. Heidi talked about the art of the possible and how you can improve things within your own organisation. She summed up the whole point of this microconference very well by reminding us to remember the why. With Glenfell and obviously the hugely unnecessary deaths can be avoided, and that's why we're here and doing what we're doing. So big thank you to all four of our keynote presentations today. And just a quick reminder from me, a couple of things. A couple of dates for your diary. We have our Housing Innovation Show returning in 2025 on the 12th and 13th of Feb. Our brand new website for that is now live, www.housinginnovationshow.co.uk, a live event in person, 2 days. Huge showcase of innovation in the housing sector taking place at the ICC, which is where the National Housing Fed used to have their conference in Birmingham, central Birmingham. And also our next online microconference, the 19th of September, all about regulation and making the grade. So thank you for everyone who attended today, and a big warm thank you to all our presenters as well. So thank you for attending. That wraps up today's microconference. Thank you very much.